The church, I know, it's just before church starts, once, I think it's club.
Okay, we'll begin. First item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Talk about the Memorial Day parade and the candy.
We can under like, after trustee updates, I'll say.
And maybe the flower pots distribution. Also, thank you.
Anybody else? I have two things to add. 10A will be the Syracuse Orchestra agreement. And 10B will be update on the dog park.
And what?
The dog park. Just want to review what's been done.
So what was 10A again?
Syracuse Orchestra
Okay.
agreement. So it's just a form to sign for the orchestra to be here on July 5th. Pretty standard, straightforward from what I see. Okay, our meeting minutes from May 27th.
I move to accept. A second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We have two abstracts, one for the ending of our last fiscal year and one for the beginning of this fiscal year. And Lori has those amounts, so.
Abstract 25 is for last fiscal year in the amount of 55,981.48.
So
Moved.
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Then,
What I was gonna say, I had just a question about
Oh, okay.
the Bartlett Tree, the Village Hall for $1,100. What
is
did
that
they
the
do?
fertilizing?
yeah, they fertilize the trees.
Okay,
We approved that at a previous meeting, but
Okay.
the bill didn't come until now.
Okay.
But that was,
Thank you.
I think the fertilizing of these trees, the parks, the treating of the brick sidewalks and things around it, stuff,
yeah, it was broken out by jobs, so
different things. Yep.
it was a lot.
Okay, thank you. An abstract number one.
Abstract number 1 in the amount of $196,019.50. And in addition to that, I need to add, just got it today, invoice or payment for Patrick Massett for cleaning up the Ledyard Canal of $630.
Okay.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. All right.
Fire department, do we have anything?
No, I didn't have any locations or anything.
He'll probably come in. I think he
Yeah.
did say he had a purchase,
Okay,
so.
we'll come back.
For no application, no
I
application,
saw
just
he
one
couldn't be
purchase. Yeah,
All right,
I'm guessing.
we'll come back to that when he comes, is able to be, DPW. We have Tyler here.
We just have one major repair. It was actually already been completed. Gotta kind of ask the board for getting some approval on this. They completed it without being approved ahead of time. It's for our Toro 7210 lawnmower slash sidewalk plow. We need a whole PTO rebuild. That was through the dealership where we bought it. They're the main dealer for Toro. And the amount of $6,120.
Can you tell me what PTO means there?
It's the main drive for the system for to mow.
Oh, it's called like powered takeoff.
Powered
So
takeoff.
if you were to hook up a mower to it or blower or whatever, that would generate the spinning power maybe.
Gotcha.
I need.
When you started out that conversation, did you say something about approval? What did you first say?
The work has been completed. They took it in to replace a wiring harness. It ended up being more. They completed the work and sent us the bill after the fact, but
Would
We
you have
just got
agreed
this
with that
last Friday.
determination?
They're the only ones that really service for us, so yeah, definitely. And we do need that machine. It's a very important machine in the winter and in the summer.
Okay. A motion to.
Second.
Second, any other discussion?
I don't know if Jane would discuss it, but senior center plumbing, did we?
We'll get to
We
that.
don't, yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All in favor? All right.
Bye.
Okay. Other things for the DPW?
This it.
Okay, anybody else for DPW? Okay, thank you.
Wow.
Good save, yep.
You guys are moving right along today. We don't have any applications. I'd like to get approval to canvas for new hires. The new list came out. So we have 3 openings. One's already being filled as a temporary, but I'd like to at least canvas and see what's out there. For the new hires. So
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? All right.
Aye.
I know there's only 5 paramedics on this whole new list out of 95 people, so that might be a challenge to get the right people. We had orientation on Saturday, 5 members came in. We'll be doing another orientation in 6 weeks. We currently have 3 and a bunch of people in the pipeline, so hopefully you get 4 or 5 more and put 10 new people on in a short period of time, which will be helpful. I have 1 purchase. I need to get 2 jacks for our rescue struts. Total for both jacks is $29.82, and it's just I have a sole source letter for purchase.
Okay. Been seconded, any questions or discussion? All in favor? All right, okay.
And I did purchase a refrigerator for $49,1357. So under the $6,000,
Below budget.
low budget.
Okay,
That's all.
thank you for the chiefs.
No,
Okay, thank you. Copier lease agreement?
Yeah, our office copier lease agreement is expiring in July. It was a 39-month lease, so I have 2 quotes. They're both state bid. Or I should say, one is, I'm not sure if the one that you got is under state bid or not, but it was competitive, but I'm recommending the Toshiba quote, which is under state bid. It's a 48-month lease for $211 a month, and they have, it includes all the servicing, the toner, the color, all the cartridges. It's actually cheaper than our current lease.
40, that's 4 years.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, it's 9 months more than the last one. We could do a 39-month lease.
No, that's okay.
No, I'm just saying it's $235.
I
So it's a little, it's a small savings.
I'm surprised.
Question.
Which one again, doing this?
Toshiba.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's the cheaper, okay, gotcha.
and
And-
you had 2 bids and this one
We
was.
do.
closer.
This one is state contracting. This is a better one. The other
I
quote
believe
was
it's state contracting price also.
Yeah, the 4-year quote was $234.73, a little more, but more important that I thought was they were gonna charge an annual maintenance agreement of, it was like $540, and that we don't have, why would we, that extra $2,000, over the course of it, it didn't make any sense. So. Just need,
I move to accept Lori's recommendation. of Toshiba.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Annual agreement. So at budget time, we talked about our agreements with different places and that we support. Go through these one at a time. So the renewal for the agreement to operate the Fayetteville Senior Center. The renewal made effective the first day of June 2025 between the Village of Fayetteville Board and the town. In the town of Manlius, is in the Fayetteville Senior Center in the amount of $55,000. There's some other things in here. If you want me to read these, I can, otherwise they'll be in the minutes, but just
Second.
standard to what we've been doing every year. So moved and seconded. Any other
Discussion.
discussion on it?
So as I read this, prior to us adopting this, we should have received, the board should have received a copy of the annual operating budget, the financial statement, and the annual report. On receipt of those documents, then we will authorize the full annual appropriation. I personally have never read, in paragraph now therefore, the agreement to operate. So when it refers to a
I
section.
have all that. I end up interrupting you, but just so you know, I do, Janet did send that in. It's been the way we've done it is they never get their check until that's been looked at. But I can make copies or give you a copy after the meeting of everything that she sent in for her annual report. Or I can give it to you right now if you wanna.
I can't process it at this
So,
point during, but
but
I understand.
Not to interrupt, but my reading of that resolution was not that we wouldn't agree to the resolution before receiving those documents, but that they would not receive the allotment of $55,000 until the village has received those documents. I mean, I don't know.
That's what I was trying to say. I didn't do a good job of that. I apologize.
I read
That,
it.
yes, we can agree, we can approve the agreement, but you have to look at the village board will authorize the full annual appropriation because that still has to come in on an abstract. The
Right, I say that-
$55,000.
Just because we agreed to this today, we don't write the check today. It will come on an abstract, which we will be approving that abstract for that disbursement.
Right, and that,
So,
at that time is when, have we seen all of them?
well, then, as the audit committee, they
Yeah.
would look at that, make sure all those documents are in place as part of the audit of paying that bill on the abstract. Just like when like if the DPW, the fire has a bill, they attach documentation to provide for that, so I'm assuming that would be with the,
I have no problem with paying them. I just have a problem with not being aware enough. And I voted on this last year and didn't pay close enough attention to the language. I would like, as a board member, to have that information
right,
prior to, for me, voting on it. So I understand that there's a process in the past. I'll just, I'm gonna just abstain from this because not that I have any problem with the expenditure that we already approved, but just because in terms of process for me, I need to look at that. So,
okay.
yeah.
So do we have a motion or not?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? And we'll get you that information, obviously not before right now, but we will get it to you
Yes.
soon.
So full of the board is everybody aye, Casey abstaining. Right?
Aye.
That's, I'm just making sure.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, the next one is an agreement with the Village of Fayetteville and the Matilda Jocelyn Gage Foundation in the amount of $2,000.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, discussion on this?
I will vote in favor of this, but I would like to just, maybe take a look at this resolution and rewrite the portion on, the Gage House is not just about women's rights, so I would like to just rewrite that portion for next year. That was my only
You
discussion
can
on it.
absolutely do, the board would look at it, but this was written up by the attorney. Not the board,
Sure.
so. You're.
I'm thinking of,
Where's that
the
book?
Gage House, sometimes Matilda is recognized only for her work in women's rights, but the house was a home on the Underground Railroad. And she was a very strong abolitionist coming from an abolitionist family who lived there. She's very positive in terms of very strong indigenous rights advocate, advocate for separation of church and state. And those things to me help better reflect the full extent of what the Gage Center is about. So I'm going to vote in favor of this. I just would like to maybe have consideration of talking with Ted perhaps about adjusting that one section. Thanks.
Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Next one is the renewal agreement to operate the Fayetteville Youth Recreation Program in the amount of $38,700.
So moved.
Moved by Dan, seconded by Mark. Questions, discussion about this one?
So I'm going to vote in favor of this, but I would like to also see the agreement to operate. So I can, read paragraph 7 at some point. That's all.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and the last one is an agreement between the Village of Fayetteville and the Manlius Historical Society in the amount of $4,500. And I'm going to turn this over to the deputy mayor because I am on that board and serve as president currently. And this is an increase of $1,000 over last year's agreement. And this is also that is reflective on from the standpoint that Barbara Rivette is no longer acting as village historian. A lot of her documents and items concerning the village and the town of Manlius in general have been given to the town of Manlius Historical Society for storage, preservation, holding, usefulness, whatever you want to describe that as. And so we did increase that a little bit just before I turn it over to Mark, just as a reason behind that too. I did have a conversation with Sarah and I've had a conversation with Supervisor Deere that Barbara was also their historian and that might, this particular year's budget was already done, so that amount didn't change. The town of Manlius does contribute to Manlius Historic also. There has been some discussion about that maybe increasing a little bit because obviously we have a few more people that might be looking to Manlius Historical things. So I'm not saying you're going to do that. I just want to say that we had discussion about that. So I'll turn this over to Mark Matt, so I can
Do we have a motion?
introduce myself.
So move.
First. For a second?
Second.
Okay.
In terms of discussion, I'm gonna vote in favor of this, but I would like to know more information about two paragraphs that start the society moving forward. That's all. And we don't have a village historian, but that I know of. So
The act
anyway,
is our historian, that's exactly what we're using.
excuse me,
The act is our historian, we don't have anybody which is self or regular position. That. Just to put it in perspective.
So these are templates we've used for a while. Maybe the wording needs to be
Yeah.
updated because of changes that are occurring.
Yeah, no,
that's what
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
suggesting. I'd be
Yeah,
happy
that's
to work on that.
okay.
And I'm totally in support of the expenditure as when I do the budget. But
Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
And are you abstaining?
I am.
Okay.
That's why I recused myself from the whole thing, just to make sure that everybody's okay with it. Or I'm okay with it too. Actually, I don't want to be in the trouble. All right, our annual finance report proposal for Bandito and Company. I can speak to that.
Yeah, for the past several years, Bonadillo and Company has been our accounting firm. They prepare our annual financial report that has to get submitted to New York State Controller. Each year they submit a letter of engagement to the village of what they will do for us. Their engagement is designated to perform they assist because I have to provide them all the information and do a lot of the background for it as well. In the preparation of the annual financial report for the Village of Fayetteville for the year ending May 31st, 2025. They'll perform all necessary accounting services to convert information provided to you and financial data necessary to perform the above services. And they do it in conjunction with the accepted practices with New York State. When we get a report, we send it in and then they go through and make, basically there are checks and balances for that. This is the typically the level they have an hourly rate, but it is a fee not to exceed $8,000. Their rates are listed below who might be working on different things, but the rate would be not to exceed $8,000. And this is also important that we have this done because we have so many federal grants done that a lot of times it's required for us to submit that we've had an outside agency perform our annual audit of our books for that.
Okay, so motion to approve.
I ask questions. Did you have a question? Yeah, you
I
started.
thought we do the
Oh,
and then ask questions, but we can do it either
Oh,
way,
okay.
whatever you want.
it's a motion and a second, I think.
okay.
Yeah, now we have discussion, usually, I mean, that's.
Thanks. It's much better for me to be able to read things in advance. I have a couple questions and How many years have we been working with this one particular company?
I can, I don't know exactly, but I think it's been at least 5, 6.
And what is is it, they approximate close to $8,000?
Yes.
Yeah.
No more than.
I'm just thinking about
Um,
past.
At this time, we estimate the total hours to be approximately 40 hours with a total fee up to $8,000. Fee is based on anticipated cooperation from your personnel and the assumption that unexpected circumstances will not be encountered during the engagement. We haven't had that happen in the past. I don't foresee any unforeseen circumstances or unexpected. This is typically, not every accounting agency does municipal accounting. So, this particular group is, does our village, Manlius. I'm not sure who the town uses, but I do know that they do the village of Liverpool. So they're,
experienced in the village.
we have had other, agencies before and they are actually no longer doing municipal accounting. So.
So there are no other agencies?
I didn't say there are no
Oh,
other,
okay, I'm
they're very few. It's not every agency doesn't have a municipal, department. And we've always had good luck. They have all of our prior year's data, so it also does lend to. Because you have to, into the system, it gets uploaded. It's just automatically populated and the things that they have and all their, the people that we work with and I don't know, there is. The history and having all that information, I think, is kind of helpful in this particular professional service. It is a professional service. It doesn't require us to have the 3 quotes either. Not that I'm ever opposed to get that, but, at least for me, I think it's good to have this consistency with your auditor. We do work with other auditors, but not the same one every time. The main one, Tanya Budge, she oversees it, but then she has people under her and they're probably the ones that are only getting $165 an hour. So, I don't know if that helps at all.
It does, perhaps next cycle, we can look and see if there are the bids. I mean, I think the concept of sharpening the pencils is a good one, and that there is some benefit sometimes to having a different pair of eyes to look at an audit. That's all I'm gonna say in terms of discussion, so.
Well, my perspective in voting for this is that it's incredibly important this day and age to have experienced professionals give us continuous service. I think that actually helps us sharpen our pencil. They have information about us, they know how we operate, they know our general parameters of operations, so they're not coming in brand new, having to recreate any kind of wheel, and that is another way to sharpen a pencil, so it's more efficient. And I think they've proven their professionalism over the years by working with us as well as some of the other villages around us.
I also think the other point is I think it's very strong because they're actually used to working with the controller's office and making sure the reports are in and done timely. The other part that goes along with this is we also received reports of a number of municipalities that have not put their reports in. And I think it's very important to be in that kind of position where we handle this professionally for the controller, because he really is one of the main checks and balances for us, as you well know, as everyone does. And his office has been very good. So it's one of the things I really look at very positively on an ongoing basis.
So of course I would like best professional services for this, and I would appreciate if I could, read the document, and that's all.
Okay. Anything? No comments, or you're good?
I
Okay.
can remember the other ones we had. This one's worked out fine. I do check with Lori to make sure this is done and that's done. There you go.
Okay.
They've always done a good job.
All in favor?
Uh,
Okay, thank you. Next is trustee Matt with the resolution in support of reduced packaging.
On the, and I have to be on the policy committee for New York Conference of Mayors. And one of the things we're looking at is we're looking at trying to move strong packaging reduction and recycling infrastructure. And they have asked that we actually put in a resolution in order to support that. I actually took one from the folks along the Hudson and I modified it in order to fit our village. Please let me read it. And I'll do the proposal for first. 32.25, support for the New York State Assembly and Senate to pass a strong packaging reduction and recycling infrastructure act. Senate Bill 1464, Assembly Bill 1749. Whereas packaging makes up approximately 40% of the waste in New York State, and whereas managing waste costs New York taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars annually, and whereas most plastic packaging is not recyclable and reusable and refillable packaging systems are not widely available, and whereas plastic causes serious pollution, including litter and use of toxic chemicals, and whereas companies that produce packaging should be responsible for the costs of managing packaging waste, not just taxpayers, and whereas enacting the Packaging Reduction and Recycling Infrastructure Act pending in New York State Assembly and the New York State Senate would reduce waste, increase recycling rates, create jobs, reduce toxicity in packaging, provide millions of dollars in savings for local governments and taxpayers, and lower greenhouse gas emissions. And be it resolved that the mayor and the board of trustees of the village of Fayetteville urge New York State Legislature to pass and Governor Kathy Hochul to sign into law a strong and effective packaging reduction and recycling infrastructure act, Senate Bill 1464 and Assembly Bill 1749. Resolved further that the village clerk treasurer of the village of Fayetteville shall forward copies of this resolution to Governor Kathy Hochul, New York State Assembly Speaker Carl Heskey, and New York State Senator Christopher Ryan and Assembly Member Al Sturpey.
I move to accept this resolution.
I'll second. I do have some reservations, but I mean, that's your next point, right? Discussion.
Yeah, we can discuss it, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm confused
Okay.
on this. Don't we already have a law where you can't use plastic bags like at a grocery store?
It's very small in what's going on because right now plastic and regular packaging is not restricted in any means whatsoever. And what's going on is that the manufacturers are putting it out there and we as municipalities are actually being forced to pay for it.
Well, wait. Could you answer my question? Isn't there already a law that's
Only on certain bags,
plastic?
not plastics totally, no. Only certain bags in grocery stores and in other stores on the retail level.
Okay,
But plastic is utilized in packaging
okay.
very greatly along the way and everything else. So that's what's going. The other part with this is just remember, the other thing that we see too is we see things that are we would put into our recycling, such as your cardboard, et cetera. And we have a huge amount of that. We've had a big increase, particularly since 2020. Because people are now not just going to stores and buying, but they're also being in the position, so it ends up in our recycling bins, which we are processing and we're paying for those tipping fees.
So you're saying this includes cardboard?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. They're trying to put together a program in order to do that.
So what would you put stuff in if somebody was?
Actually, there's a variety of things where things are much more recyclable.
Name,
Cardboard is, but what they could do is they could stop using some of the plastics and they could use things that are actually paper related.
we just bought a new truck to pick up trash.
You're still gonna have both sides,
The rule says, put it in a bag sealable.
right? And I
I
don't
don't
like
know
that.
whether we are or not.
We are.
So we're gonna, if this gets passed, we're gonna be violating it.
Well, it all depends on how they structure the final verbiage in this. That's the other portion that goes along with it. But the reason most municipalities are going in this direction is because we are the ones that are being forced to pay the bill, the municipality, and our ergo, our taxpayers. And when our taxpayers have to pay for what manufacturers are doing, then I think that's a problem.
You
And
know-
they should have more direct effort and reduce our costs in order to handle these.
You know, many of the items we vote on are either health and safety or taxpayer related. I don't know, if we say we've got a trash truck, it's gonna use, you're supposed to, I don't know, what's the rule? The rule is you're supposed to be able to see, right?
Yeah.
So Obviously, we can't go that direction.
Well, they haven't done that. If they do, they do. That's, we would have to deal with it in another manner.
Like what, give me an example. What would you put it in?
You could put it into a paper bag.
No, they said you couldn't. That's.
No, they
that
can't
was-
right now, but they could if they wanted to go in that, because it ends up going to the incinerator, so it doesn't matter, but they're using plastic bags because they actually are more sturdy than paper bags.
And I don't know about this particular resolution, but it's entitled Packaging Reduction and Recycling. And so I'm thinking it's like when you get a box from Amazon, you open it up. You know, you get something this big surrounded by plastic this big. I think this is what this particular legislation is aimed at.
Yeah,
Not so much plastic bags.
They're trying to get rid of that, but this is really a lot of the packaging because we have, I mean, all we have to do is go in certain neighborhoods here when we're doing recycling, and we've got a huge amount of packaging that's being done because people are not shopping at the store. They basically have that increase of packaging we are forced to deal with and pay for.
Okay, so Jane
Go
had
ahead.
some,
Yeah.
and Casey both have questions, but let's just keep one around the table.
Mine's not a question, it's a comment.
Okay.
I respect Dan's comments and potential confusion of what are we going to do, but regardless of whether we adopt this resolution or not, it reflects that our state is seeking to take action to reduce the amount of packaging and also somehow, which I don't know how, but somehow encourage the cost of that packaging to not be the sole burden of local municipalities and taxpayers through our recycling and garbage pickup. I am not familiar with the very specific bills that we reference in this resolution, so that's my bad. I didn't have the time to look them up and understand exactly what is being proposed at that level. Having said all of that, I'm a huge fan of doing whatever we can to discourage the level of packaging that the manufacturers use. And I have prime examples in my own experience as a consumer. I have received packaging of 100% plastic, and I have received packaging of 100% paper. Right, so it still has to be thrown away, recycled, reused somehow. But I would rather see that paper being more used, a selection through the on the manufacturing side than the amount of plastic packaging. I frequently bellyache in my home about how much packaging and how insane it is and how ridiculous it is and how much we don't need. So I'm in favor of trying to do what we can to reduce, not necessarily eliminate, but by pushing towards a reduction that is going to, in my opinion, encourage those on the manufacturing level to be more creative in how they put the item into whatever is going to carry it. So Dan, to your final point, what are we going to put our garbage in if we can't use garbage plastic bags? I don't have an answer for you today, but I'll bet you a nickel something creative will come along because that's how it gets generated. Also, there's part of me that doesn't even understand why we have to put anything in a plastic bag. It's a garbage bucket. I don't put anything but garbage in it. So why can't I just put my garbage right in the garbage bucket? Because it gets messy. So I'm over talking right now. I am in favor of supporting this effort. I can't say that I am 100% in favor of these very specific bills because I'm unfamiliar with them. So that's my point.
Just the idea of a plastic bag for your garbage, one way or the other, because it's brought up twice now, is in our composting program, they do make just biodegradable plastic bags that you can use. So it doesn't have to be paper, it doesn't have to be non-biodegradable plastic, it could be biodegradable plastic. So there's options out there, and some of that might develop even further if some of this comes into play.
Right.
That's my only comment. Casey has something to
No,
say.
that's great. I appreciate all this discussion. Dan, your questions are, are really important. Jane, I join you in the belly aching, and Mike, what you talked about in terms of the biodegradable product is because there is pressure put on industries to change and municipality, the public and the private sector to come together to deal with a really serious problem. So I feel very passionately about the need to do something, as Jane said. In the course of my 41 years living in Onondaga County, I have been very distressed. I'm more distressed now than at any point during those 41 years about the amount of plastic packaging that I am putting into our waste stream here in the village. We have just a normal sized garbage can, and if we have salad and berries, we've pretty much almost filled our garbage can because of these large plastic containers. I believe that science can come up with something better than that. And if it was biodegradable in some way, and I know that's complex, but we don't get the incentives for industry unless we help to move the needle, and we really need to do this. Jane, I think you're right that we're not looking at the specific legislation, but we are, and the specific legislation is probably still in flux, but we are offering support through this letter to say to the state, we agree that this needs to be addressed. So I'm very much in favor of this. Just have a couple things. I'd like my legal name, need my legal name here.
Gotcha.
Cleary Hempstead, and
We'll do
you
that.
know, and there's a couple little things, just little that I'll give you.
You like punctuation better.
Punctuation and capitalization. So thank you very much, Mark. I think that the work that you've been doing, the kitchen composting and this dovetail very nicely together with everything you're doing, sustainable too, which is very important to us.
Okay, moved, seconded, any other discussion, all in favor? I think we have to, each one has to respond to it, or according to what this is.
Yes.
Or when you
Exactly,
record it or
or
send it in, you
exactly.
have to be able to record it, so. All in favor, everyone?
I,
Nay,
And I. Okay,
and I will remain because I think that it'll put us in violation of the way we actually ourselves. Right.
okay,
I think it'll be a hardship on our resident.
next we have a solicitor's permit for renewal by Anderson.
Exactly that,
Everything came back, there's background checks and all that.
I'm not honestly,
Or should we?
we
And
got all
been
this,
submitted, we may not have received.
we have not received the background checks yet.
So we're pending that.
Somebody wanna make a motion pending background checks coming back appropriate, that we would allow them to go soliciting. We're not gonna give them their permit till we get that type of thing, or give them permission to solicit as opposed to waiting.
So this is,
2 weeks.
this is renewal. Is that the name of the firm, Renewal by Anderson, or is that, are we renewing?
No, it's renewal by Anderson,
That's-
schedule window and door replacement
That's the name.
consultations.
Okay.
I would move that. I mean, if they, as long as we get the background checks and they're okay.
They're not gonna get an okay from the village side of it until we have everything in place, but if you're comfortable moving forward that way, we can. If not, we have to wait 2 weeks till our next
I think
meeting.
we've had them in the past, maybe not last year, but.
I'll second. I think Danny said whatever. He moved, I second.
Okay,
Same thing.
so moved as long as they provide all the required information and
Right.
before we give them the okay. Moved and seconded, any other discussion? All the same usual parameters of timing and all that, of course, goes without saying kind of, but we'll say it anyway. All in favor?
just one little discussion point.
Yep.
Do we really need to be discussing at this board level? I'm not saying we discuss that now, but I think we need to. We have administrative procedures that address all the things that basically come to us as approval. I would like to discuss that at a future time. And so in this case, I will vote aye, but I would like that, a little bit of discussion on that. Because I think our administrative staff handles all of this.
So you mean
really
whether
well.
it comes to the board or not?
Yeah, if the, that's just a discussion I'm asking to have at future date.
Okay. Right. 10A, I have an agreement to sign for the Syracuse Orchestra for the concert that's coming up on July 5th. It's, I have Ted look this over, but it's scheduled that day for 2¼ hours with a 20-minute intermission. And it's typical from what I'm reading of last year's, so let's have Ted look it over, but I would like authorization to sign the agreement for the orchestra. It's in the amount of $19,000, which we budgeted for, which we knew about going into this agreement with them.
Second.
Moved and second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next, village newsletter. So we had some discussion.
Your dog park.
Oh, dog park, sorry.
Dog park.
So just the dog park update. We received a letter from a resident regarding the dog park, and I just wanted to review or tell you what I've done in the past or where we stand with things. I've had conversations with Bobby, and it has to do with dogs. It has to do with perhaps the barking of the dogs and the people that use the park. So I've had conversations with Bobby when he was the superintendent and Tyler in regards to that. And we had discussions about different ways and options of possibly or potentially helping to alleviate some of the noise. None of those seem to be end up being favorable at the end of the day. I've had conversations with Mark Miller from the Parks Committee addressing some of the complaints or requests that we received from a resident, and found that there wasn't really the solution there that they were looking for, according with the parks and what their standpoint was. I've had discussions with these people, and so did the former mayor. And there were discussions, not promises, or settled on what was to be done. We did plant, the former mayor planted a berm with some trees. Some of the trees have died on that, and so I would like to replace those trees and offer that as part of an ongoing type of thing to help alleviate the what they're experiencing, if they're experiencing it. And so I'm gonna be working with Tyler on that. There was talk of a fence going across there, like a wood fence that doesn't seem to be feasible, especially in the current climate of what we're experiencing last year and this year with flower pots, with the bathrooms at Canal Landing Park and different things. I really don't want to hide an area behind a solid type of fence to have mischief activities take place, no matter who might be taking place with the activities. And I have had several visits. I've made several visits personally to the park, and several different times during the day, different days of the week, especially over the last few weeks, but also ongoing since these discussions began. And I do not experience what is being alleged in here as far as noise, as far as use, or as far as problems with the park itself. So I just wanted to give everybody kind of an update, and we did talk about it. I believe it was at maybe at the last meeting we had regarding our budget or passing our budget. I'd have to look, I don't know if it was in the minutes or not. I didn't look back that far, that we kind of agreed to leave things status quo based upon what I found out before. But I just wanted to, again, go over this and just kind of give you an update of what's been done. If anybody has questions, we'd like to talk to you about it one-on-one, and we can discuss further things, details about it.
Do we have an understanding of why the trees died?
From part of it. It's berm above ground. We had a really tough winter.
So they don't
Cold.
they don't get to get their roots into the ground, is that?
They
part of it?
did, they actually took for the first year, but we had a colder winter than normal this year, harsher winter. And he believes that was a determining factor, and the town salts quite heavily and plows that road, so we may have to consider moving the berm back a little bit.
Either that or else, for the winter time, I don't mind. You see it in different landscaping applications where they put in stakes and they put like burlap across, but not necessarily like wrapping each tree, but just like a wall of that. In the winter time, it wouldn't be bad to
Stop the salt.
maybe put some of that up, because it happens to be plowed by the town, but if it was plowed by us or anybody else, it'd get the same salt.
But
It's not
Tyler, if we have another area where we consider it a low salt area, so if we could look at requesting salt to
okay.
be used right in front of those trees.
Yes, I know.
So I'm not sure you want to do that on that road,
No.
going down that hill.
I'll agree with that. That's the problem. We can
We
move the
actually
berm
need
back.
to up the salt.
Did we use gator bags on those trees? Because there's no other real water source for them to get any
No, we
water. or
watered
Bartlett
them,
did- oh,
we watered them ourselves, for the first probably 2 months of when they were planted. I think about 2 years ago now.
You may need to order them longer, so maybe we could talk to Bartlett about that. That's part of the reason that they may not have survived.
They all took for about 2 years. We had one kind of,
Yeah.
but the rest was from this one.
Is there a different type of tree we could put there, cedar or something like that?
As far as Bartlett says, they consider those to be one of the more resilient trees.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm talking about as far as blacking or blackage or something.
I don't think it really, I mean, according to the letter, it doesn't really matter what trees we put there because the residents that have made the complaint about the park have planted several trees and they say the trees do absolutely nothing for the noise of the dogs. So I'm willing to put up trees and replace our trees as a village and try to accommodate some of that noise reduction. But according to what they say, they've planted 20 trees and it's done absolutely nothing for the noise according to what's written here.
So my recommendation is to not over focus on our one line of trees, but
Right.
you may have already done this. But this is not the only dog park up and operating in our greater county area. And we should talk to other villages and just get feedback. What's going on with your dog park? You know, our dogs aren't particularly barky over here. They're just, it's normal. That's what I'm trying to say. And it's, and we should, you know, ask around, find out if other folks have had some issues, if they've taken any measures to reduce the noise. That's the question, and just see what we find.
I will ask. I had somebody that contacted me when we closed the dog park for the winter, and I suggested that they're not a Fayetteville resident, not that they have to be to use our dog park. But I suggested that they go to Jamesville, which is open year round, I believe, for dogs, and I was told that the dogs over there are mean.
Yeah.
And don't play well together, so I'm not sure.
Now there's
But I will look into
It's also-
other parks and see what I can find out.
that dog park is not. Well, I'm not gonna say, so, yeah, I
No,
would,
I will check
yeah.
into some other areas and see what
see
I
how
can find out.
other dog parks, and then see if any of it's applicable to us. That way we're taking steps to do what we can. But short of that, we can maybe ask I-81 if they've got some sound barriers.
There you go.
There's that safety issue again. I've been speaking to these people for a few years about this issue and they are really very distraught. And, I have been at their house where there's barking and barking dogs can be so irritating. We have one loud barker and it really changes the quality of life. So for this particular household, and they contend some others, this has really changed things for them. So I'm in favor of that research piece. And Mike, I'll volunteer to do it, to see not only in our area, but maybe broader than that, different ways that municipalities have handled this to reduce the noise. The situation looks pretty tough to try to make any real difference. The only other question I would have would be about hours. Forgive me, I don't have them off the top of my head, but do you?
I believe we put a set hour up there. I don't think.
So I'll look at hours too, when I'm looking at,
I think
when I'm
it's-
trying to do
it's
some
posted.
survey.
Yeah,
It's posted, yeah.
Yeah. So like we made an adjustment on hours in a different park for a different reason, I'll look at hours of the other municipalities to see if they, unless you really want to do the research piece, so.
well, I'll look around, I'll work with you on it or whatever, and we
Yeah.
will see what's what.
Yeah.
But there's two sides to every story, and I talk to the dog people that use the park. And they are accosted by these people very often and not treated very well by these people very often. And they are the only people that have complained to the at the village level. And I'm not using that to display or just dissuade anything that has been said here today or the application of looking at some of the other dog parks around. But there is a balance that has to be met. And there is the opportunity for people to contact me.
Is it a particular dog, or is it?
No, it's because when, when I've been there, like, there's dogs in the park and there's people there. Do you ever take your dog up there? So I don't know what your experience has been. My experience when I go there, a lot of times if there's more than one dog there, you have the owners kind of standing near the gate, just inside, talking to each other and whatever, and then the dogs are either meandering around or running around. I'm assuming if somebody's up there, maybe, I don't know, because I haven't had a dog since I was a kid. I'm assuming if somebody is like throwing a ball or the dogs are like chasing each other, then they might be some barking and stuff as like playful dogs will do or whatever and stuff.
So it's not one particular.
It's not one particular dog, and it's no, trustee Casey just made a very good point. If they had a neighbor with a barking dog, it could be just as offensive that nobody could do anything about either. As opposed to the,
Is that true? If I had a barking dog at my house, I would, I mean, that was all day long. I think you can do something, can't you?
well, you would call like
Yeah.
maybe an animal control officer or something. You wouldn't call the village because I wouldn't be able to do anything about it. as a
Yes, I think
village.
there are,
So
in residential areas, you don't just let.
I don't know, I don't have the answers to that either, but
I have the answer
Oh.
because I have been on both sides of that. I've been the owner of the barking dog and I've been, I never called animal control, but I've been the receiver of the barking dog. It is animal control. They're very nice about it. They're there really to, first of all, check on the dog. Most dogs who bark incessantly, meaning they just don't stop barking. There's something uncomfortable in their situation. And so, addressing that is what's always recommended. And, in my case, it was just the dog was accidentally left outside. Like, oh my God, we didn't mean to do that. So we brought him inside, everything stops, right? But, when you have a dog park, my guess is it's not one dog or even two dogs incessantly barking. It's just going to be this up and down experience. So no barking and then two dogs show up and there's some barking. So I think our only way to try to amend the environment around there would be some kind of other action with the sound barrier that we haven't already taken. And I would only know by calling other dog parks and
I'll look into, well, I think the trees are a good start.
They're a good
Again,
start.
let's
And
replace
they-
what we've tried to do at least, or whatever. I feel comfortable with that. And then I will check on some other areas and talk with Casey about it and we can look further.
Is there anything in our code about dog barking, Mike?
Yeah.
Would you care to just?
He probably doesn't know it off the top of his head, but
Yeah, they can't go on and on.
I'll look at the code too.
Under noise complaint.
it ends up being a noise complaint.
I had I had this written down to discuss later with regard to parks, but I have been there. And I guess I've been there at the wrong time because I never heard anything, so. I've not living there, so I've only been there for maybe 20-25 minutes at a time. Only because I wanted to check on the new bike paths, and this and that, the other, and I haven't heard anything. If Mike and I happen to be on either side of a place where we have continuous barking by little dogs. And, it's just one of the
You mean
things.
in
that
terms of living? The residents?
Where
Yeah.
there's a place in between the two.
Yeah, yeah,
Two.
yeah.
I mean, neighborhood, the dogs bark, there's
And-
neighborhoods, there's things that happens or whatever.
I know it's a problem and it's.
Well, I'm not sure how much of a problem it is.
I mean,
except it's a problem for these
it's a
particular
problem.
people, which is okay.
Well, it was one of the things that we did that we, I guess there should have been more thought that went into it and I was not happy with it to begin with, but went along with it because all the dog lovers showed up and had to have that part. Most of them from outside of the village, Manlius, the town of Manlius, so sir.
How do you know that most of the users of that dog park are from
Once that
outside?
came to the meeting.
Oh, okay, that one meeting, all right.
I would suggest, I
You can
mean,
tell from phone calls that come in.
yeah, we can talk about it for a long time, but we don't need
Yeah, we're
to.
not
I'm
getting
gonna
it.
just suggest that if you have a chance to take your time,
Right.
go up there once in a while. If you happen to have a minute, drive up there, just see what's going on. That's what I've been doing off and on. I've been at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:30, 9. I've been through like the different times of the day, different days of the week, cloudy, rainy days. The day that was like Saturday, I was there. It was very sunny and nice. The time of day I was there and stuff. I've been there at 6 o'clock at night or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, thinking maybe people get out of work and bring their dogs and stuff. It hasn't been that active any of the times that I've been there. Sarah experiences it,
Yeah.
so she's shaking her head there agreeing kind of.
Usually more than
So-
two.
I would suggest that in the process of what we're looking into, if you have a chance, go up there and I sit, like Danny, I sit there for 10-20 minutes, something like that, waiting to see what's happening. And of course, I'm not there 24 hours a day, so it could happen. As soon as you drive away, something could be different, but I think it's, we'll look into it a little further, but I want to have a little bit of a discussion and get the trees kind of replaced. So it shows that we're doing a little something. We'll find out some more information and then discuss it further. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Village newsletters. So at budget time, we talked about village newsletters. And we talked about maybe consolidating the timing that they go out, things like that. Karen can talk to this a little bit more about what, now there's things going on and what's going on and stuff like
Yeah, I
that.
think
Casey
it's a
also.
chance to really, discuss it as to where we need to go, but it seems like there's probably more of a need to do more newsletters than reduce it like we were originally thinking. So,
Communications is one of my liaison responsibilities, as Mike had explained to me. It's newsletter, website, social media, and everything working hand in hand with the person who's been doing it so well for many years and evolving over time with new technology. So because of this working so well as a liaison, I did not rise to the occasion of doing as much as I should have in this area. And that it was on the newsletter agenda, just happened for me at, just a couple days' notice, but I had been thinking about things, so I think that we have two decisions here. Karen, let me know if you think about that. I think we need to make a decision about right now, this summer, publicizing our events and other content. And then in that respect, I would also like to let you know some of the things I've been thinking. And contrary to my own request that I provide things that you provide things in advance to me to read, I just finished doing this very early this morning. So I have something for us to consider moving forward. Karen hasn't even got to see it. But it was just a question of me taking little chibbly notes and putting it down. So there's a copy here for all of you. So in terms of the, Karen has quickly put together some of the information about the costs of the newsletter that we did not have so much during our budget workshops. And, I'll just, the total cost of our spring newsletter was $2,100. And that includes the printing and the postage are almost equal. So in terms of the second page, so in terms of the cost of doing a newsletter this summer, which we would want to put together as soon as possible, the expenditure would be a little bit over $2,000. I would like us to consider doing that because I do think that our communications are very important. This is our only communication that goes directly to villagers. Not all villagers use our website, our social media. So getting access to our information the newsletter is our primary source that goes directly to all of the taxpayers in our village, as opposed to some other things that don't necessarily, the costs always go to all our villagers. So in terms of where that money should come from, this is me, 4 o'clock in the morning, thinking, well, we don't have something set up for the third party in the plaza, which was another thing we discussed during the budget workshops. So I would suggest that we forego the August party in the plaza. We do many events. I won't belabel them because I think everyone knows what they are. And instead, think about shifting that money to doing this newsletter. And I can work on it and, we want to concentrate on the celebrations, but there's other content that, could be put in there that helps to keep our villages up to date on the kinds of things we talk in here, but not many people hear about. So I put it, and that's my first proposal. And the second one is this draft of a schedule that I see us being able to use. So we won't have that, oh, wait, what are we doing kind of idea. And just in terms of when I'm thinking about topics and things like that. I have experience in journalism, and this is something that I think we could work out and have a product that communicates more information to our villages over time.
Didn't we put some money in our budget for newsletters?
We do have some money for newsletters, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not in favor of canceling the party in the Plaza for August right now, and I have something to talk about that part of that with in conjunction with the jazz, so.
Yeah.
We do have some, we're just starting a new budget here. We do have some money in the budget for newsletters. I don't know what the exact amount is. I don't know if anybody does right now off the cuff. But anyway, I don't have a I agree that the newsletter is important. It needs to go out. I think that this newsletter is important and needs to go out. So I would like to move forward with this one and then have a little time to think the rest of this through.
Yeah.
I believe that having 3 is not unattainable or unreasonable. Certainly, I believe like the different lengths or sizes of the newsletter affects the cost, right, Karen? To a little bit or whatever. So whether, yeah, so whether they're all the same or a little bit different, each, I mean, depending on how much content we need to put in each one, they could all be the same. That's all fine with me, but I think that we should move forward with the current one and then take a harder look at the rest of them and pay for it out of the budget money that we had put in there so far for this, and then look to see what others will cost and see where it's gonna go.
I'm confused why we're even, I thought we always did news. When did we decide not to do newsletter?
It's a question of
It's never been a
frequency.
question not to do them, it's just the number of them or how much to put into them.
So is the decision today about to move forward with the newsletter now, is that
I think,
additional newsletter? I mean, I'm very,
no, this is, so
we haven't had a newsletter in a while. I haven't received one.
Right, and I think we
Right.
thought we could maybe do something differently for this summer. But we recognize that full-fledged newsletter is just as important now as it is like in the fall.
So is
Instead of doing 2, I think the thought was maybe just do a semi-annual one, but I think the.
well, we
need
had
for 3
budget
newsletters-
discussions and we talked about this. It's my recollection, and maybe we didn't talk about it in budget. Maybe I talked about it with Karen and Casey, but basically we talked about maybe having 2 full newsletters, one in this twice, one 6 months apart from the other. And then perhaps for our summer events, maybe just sending out a postcard or something smaller with just the events written on it. If we want to send out 3 a year, I don't have a problem with that. I think it's a good idea to give them as much information as we can. I guess that's a bigger discussion that we will have once we get a little more information together. And
It's just something to think about more because the cost has obviously gone up compared to what we did in the past.
Right.
To have the newsletter that's.
The other thing with the newsletters is they have been, in the past, I will say haphazard. They've been, right? I mean, it's
Right,
approximate,
it's hand
it's been
delivered,
about approximately the same times of year. Sometimes they were hand delivered, sometimes they were mailed, sometimes they were delivered by departments, sometimes they were delivered by trustees and mayor. So that's the bigger discussion that we're gonna have as opposed to not this particular newsletter. It's not a question of whether we should send one out now. I think we should send one out now.
Great.
It's a bigger question of where are we going down the road? And we have a little bit of time to discuss that and get the plan in place, but that's something that we should be starting to think about and discuss so that we know what the plan is. Whether it goes out in April or May not make a big difference, and maybe one year it goes out in April, one year it goes out in May. I think we'd like to see it, from what I'm understanding, more consistent, like it goes out. I'll just pick months, January, June, and September, or whatever the time frame is, whatever those months are. I'd like to have it so that people can kind of rely on it and cover those events and those happenings and those topics appropriate to those times of the year.
Which this, helps facilitate that. I do like.
Right, no, this is good time frame and stuff too, or whatever. I'm just saying like that.
Appreciate that.
I actually think, I mean, one of the problems is that I think we're running up on where we've got things coming immediately, and I think you're correct. We should we need to do something immediately, and we should really concentrate, and think about how we want to do this long term. Because communications is one of the failings of almost every community that I know. we don't do a good enough job. And that's one of the hard parts. And that's all of us, not one person, forgive me. I'm not doing that at all. Because I did it before and it still is not easy. Okay. The other part is we have a lot of different ways in order to do this. And the newsletter is just one of those. So we could do some other things. And you know, with Jason over there, maybe we can work with them on some things also. Those are the kinds of things that I'm looking at, we need to do in order to be able to present better to our community what we're doing, so they understand what the value is of living in our community and the quality of life that we're all trying to provide for them as well. And that's a key component when we start talking about this, because this is really for our community, so they can actually understand and take advantage of what we're trying to do for them and understand what we've done and are continuing to do and what their input means to us as far as letting us know what's going on. So I think we should try to move something fairly rapidly, and I think we need to have
Okay, so
that
then
major
let's-
conversation.
Let's turn to Karen for timelines of when people should have any information submitted for this.
In an hour.
Can we get back to you because we were, you know, let us have a chance to talk right after this and we'll send everyone an email to see if other people desire having content in that, which is not something that you've been asked up until this moment. So there is a lot of possibilities for content, but let's see what each of you want. Does that make sense to you?
Well, I
The
mean,
next
if we
day or
want to
two?
get it out, we have, Karen, Karen just knows the time frame. We can get back to you on that stuff, but you know the time frame of when you get it, when it's gonna go out. And if we want it out by whatever, even if
Gonna
it's,
need a couple weeks, because the most of it is going to be with having it printed and prepared mailing,
right,
so.
So
Yeah,
you're-
so Casey and I will forward something this afternoon, to, to remind you, hey,
you're thinking
that's
of
something.
within
You
the
have
week,
something you will think is
within this
to
week.
be included within literally 48 hours. I will
Okay.
tell you that now, because I.
No, that's fine. That's what I'm
I'm
looking for, is to make sure everybody knows what parameters they're thinking about. That's all.
So you guys were already thinking.
So
that
you
that's-
want it in this week?
Absolutely.
Good, there you go.
Okay.
Why are we talking more about it?
And trustees, I think, you know, as a recipient of the newsletters for the 22 years I've lived here, I think, you know, there's some other discussions that are not included here today, but don't think that you have to give an overview of everything. You need things to be like green for that period of time that we're doing it. So if you think about this going up to like September 30th, that would be good. And if you Mike is doing the overview, trustees can put in like mini reports. It could be a couple sentences on something and just that little bit of an update. So
No.
just keep that in mind. Everyone does not have to write an essay. We want to keep things short.
My question is, are you expecting a written paragraph from every trustee?
No,
So you're not asking for that?
no.
Something you feel that needs to be included.
No, that's, okay, there's two different things here. It's very different to have from trustees corner. All right, and then everybody gets to choose that. I want consistency. Either we're going to have written comments from trustees corner. I just made that up, but from each trustee, or we're going to send to you bits of information we think should be included in the newsletter, and the newsletter is from all trustees. It's not, this page is from trustee Matt, this page is from trustee Kinsella. So I just need to know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So you're gonna email that to them once you
Yeah,
talk
That's
to
something we can
Karen?
think about, because you're right, in the past, we have alternated between, trustees issue versus a department issue as far as blurbs. There's obviously crossover a lot of times with those two, because, a particular topic may apply in both situations, but something we can discuss, having that alternating format.
The other thing is I will make myself available to any trustee who prefers me to ask you questions, to interview you and write up your little thing, whatever it is that you want. That's something that I can do very easily. If that makes it easier for you.
Okay. So we're good to go. Thank you. All right, trustee update. You want to start, Casey? You got-
Oh, there.
All right, anything? You're
Little sip of tea here.
You're tired of talking? Dan, you got anything?
Oh, yeah, I've got a whole list of things.
Okay, let's go.
I don't know, or this at the end. Well, I gotta hold up my sign. Vote and vote, get a kayak and do this on this Saturday coming up. You end up at the Canal Museum. There, so once again, vote and vote. I've been promoting that for quite a while. I was gonna talk a lot about parks, but we already talked about parks. One thing that I would like, if there's any, I don't know whether there's any calls to the office or, so on and so forth. But any park in the village is open to all people. It's not exclusive to a certain area. For example, Berry Park is not necessarily exclusive to the people that live in that area. The Washington Park is not exclusive to the people that live in that. Gashing all the way down. There's been issues where people gone to a park and they say, why did we park this wrong night? Somebody that doesn't live in the neighborhood, obviously, will drive a car, go somewhere, and they get, not harassed, but told that they shouldn't be parking there, they shouldn't be there because they don't live there, okay. But we want, any park is available to any resident. I've had many compliments, unbelievable. Number one, we've had compliments on the looks of the thing that shouldn't be there, which is, I guess, a car wash. But all the people said it shouldn't be there. Now, I've had a lot of people that came along and said, boy, it looks great. I've had a lot of comments about when is the grocery store opening? And I'm sitting here and Ted is sitting there smiling and. I mean, you know, all you gotta do is walk down the street. I just walk in, the other night, or the other day, I was coming down Oakwood, stopped, talked to this guy. I said, how are things going? Good. When's that store going open? And I mean, I didn't even know the guy. He was walking his dog. I said, no.
Yeah, Ms. Ross has filed her request to have the matter considered by the New York State Court of Appeals. We're waiting on a decision from that court as to whether or not it will entertain her request. So,
And it's my understanding they have no time parameters, like they don't have to respond within any
you
particular.
know,
They're not under any rule of, they have to respond in 6
That's
months,
correct.
a day, or
But what's
a year.
there's gonna be a practice there. What's their practice? They generally respond within what? 6 months? And when did she file her request?
January, I believe.
Don't recall the exact time, but it was earlier this year.
I think it was in January, if I remember right. She had, the decision came back again, in the village's favor in December, I believe, and then she filed it soon after
Okay.
that.
So
She had a certain number of days to file her
right,
appeal.
right.
She did the same thing with her previous Article 78 proceeding. And in that instance, the Court of Appeals actually took almost a year to issue
So-
its
Denial.
denial.
So my question is, so the applicant has gone through several layers or levels of courts so far, and in every instance, the decision has supported the village's decision. It is the legal opportunity for the applicant to appeal again. My question is, does the village has to pay a lot of money every time an appeal is filed? Or some money, I don't even know what it is anymore, but my question is, will there be an opportunity for the village to consider, I'm not saying we want to do this, but after the third or fourth appeal, which she has lost, at some point I want to say, okay, you can keep appealing, but if you are unsuccessful, we have the opportunity to seek reimbursement for that cost. Is that ever an option for the village?
I don't believe so.
I brought that up before.
I'm not aware
No, I don't think so.
of any mechanism the village could adopt. To capture those expenses.
Okay,
I just don't understand how one person can hold up something that there are numerous questions, when's it gonna? I just doesn't give me. Okay, I had the newsletter written down here. This is pretty good. I like one thing on the report we got when we should give it out or so. I think there's three. And I sort of like the timeline. I might have a little adjustment. The recreation committee was disappointed in cutting down the length of time for the Fayetteville Festival. I said, well, it's a matter of costs and this and that. They weren't, they didn't feel, I don't think they felt bad about no tent, but they did feel bad about the length of time. They thought it was an opportunity for them to really promote the recreation. And also that they felt that the residents and everybody who came had a great time doing all the little games that they had. And they really enjoyed it. They enjoyed meeting people and having them. So I just want to say, no, that cutting the time down. I said, well, we could get rid of one of the parties in the plaza. They said, well, that could be. So is there a rule on the amount of money spent? I know the DPW and the fire department are very good about that, about money spent on items.
What do you mean a rule?
Is there a limit?
There's no limit. The limit is of what you have to get permission for,
Right.
what you have to get either a written, verbal quotes, written quotes, go
Okay,
out and
that-
actually seal bids.
Okay.
So the limit will dictate what we're supposed to have and whether, you know, in the past, even today, I use the word professional services.
Right. I knew that.
So it's all, as your own procurement policy is your rule.
Okay, all right, I have that.
Yeah.
That's it, okay. All right, and the last thing I had, no, that's good. Okay. James, you
Yeah.
got it.
yes, so, because the item that came in late was this ask from the Parks Commission. I sent you all an email, I believe last night, and then you have in front of you a printed copy. And all they're asking is really location of these two.
We already approved the sign.
In 2023, the actual sign layout, color, font, all of that was approved in 23. And now they're looking to, the expectation in 23 was that the small signs could be printed by the town of Manlius, but since then that's not happening. So they're seeking two levels of their approval. Number one is location for the signs, and number two is the the fact that they have to go to both sides.
They have money in their
They have $5,000 in their expense account. Go ahead.
pay for
We
it.
have existing signs for the Parks Department. They are
For those signs.
similar to those, yes.
Yeah, I think that your signs are bigger for the bigger parks, and these are for the small parks.
Yeah.
So these are the smaller signs. So I think they wanted to get some of these smaller signs up and then look to get those installed.
I move to approve the location and the expenditure on the signs.
Moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Thank you. The community garden is really moving along quite well. DPW has done a great job working with those gardeners in making sure they have access to water, which is the only real issue. And that's all worked out really well. So if you want to see happy plants go to community garden.
I went there yesterday and it looks so much better.
Yeah.
Than ever.
Yeah.
So everybody's
So
doing a
we're-
good job,
We're
DPW,
all
gardeners.
putting a little more TLC into them. The cottage itself is moving along. Our goal is to have it completed by July 4th. That's a bit ambitious goal, but we're still gonna leave it there. We have to obtain plumbers according to county code, just to meet what their requirements are, because it's county money we're using. Once that's done, where we've already Tyler has reached out to 3 different plumbing companies to get their quotes and get their information. Anyway, we'll get that done. We'll get the plumbing set up. And then we have some of our own workers who will be able to finish off the bathroom, finish off all the electrical work, lay the floor. We will have to reach out to probably Chittenden Lumber, I'm not sure, but we have to get new doors. We'll have to have that discussion if we get closer to those doors. I think that pretty much will cause the whole, lights and fans. I have to hang some lights and fans. We'll be done with the cottage. Yay. It's actually looking very nice. It's going to be a nice little room. It is gonna be a little room. But it is a nice little room, and hopefully we'll then be able, through the senior center and other folks, come up with some good, decent uses for the cottage. Landscaping has to be addressed, but that'll be post July 4th. We'll figure out exactly what we want to do and how we're gonna pay for that after we get the actual structure done. So that's the cottage, that's the community center, parks, they're looking at putting up some of their smaller signs. They're busy with improving Do Good Park Run. And what Dan said, I think the Parks Commission would agree, and I agree. Parks are open to everybody. Living across the street from a very popular park, I can tell you that is used all the time by all kinds of folks. And I see that as nothing other than a huge asset for our village. So I hope other parks are receiving the same attention. The pond at Beard Pond, really the stone wall is going to need some attention, but DPW knows that, so that hopefully will get some attention over the warm weather one of these months. It's a lot of attention, but we'll get there. Oh, and zoning, there will be a visual preference survey towards the end of this month. There's no hard date, but towards the end of this month, beginning of next month, EDR will announce the release of a visual preference survey to all of our residents. Hopefully at our next board meeting, actually, I'll remove the word hopefully. At that time, I will bring what we're gonna use to notify everybody that this is out there. So that y'all can see it. We need to do some kind of marketing campaign to let everybody know. Then, and towards the end of this month, beginning of next month, there will also be these small stakeholder group meetings. They'll get those scheduled. I've mentioned this before. If you know of anybody who you think would serve well in one of those meeting groups, it's informal. It's not, you don't have to know anything about zoning, but you have to know about the village. That's what they want. They want folks, lawyers, engineers, landscape architects, contractors, business owners, residents, renters, not just property owners. Because not just businesses, but
Yep.
residents too. So everybody has an experience that they can share, and that'll give our consultants a really good wide view of our village as they then turn around and put our zoning together. We will not be having a public informational meeting. We have not had one yet. There's not been a big public informational meeting. It's not gonna happen until well into the fall, October, November. We're gonna do the visual preference survey. We're gonna have the stakeholder group meeting, so the public is going to be interfaced with, but not in a big, open house kind of way. That stakeholder group, series of meetings will happen. Then they're gonna roll up their sleeves and draft the first draft of the code. We are all then gonna kind of see the code, the steering committee will see it. At that point that we feel that it is digestible for everybody, that's when you'll have the first public informational meeting. Lots of revisions will happen before and after. So it's just such a technical document. It has to be digestible before we even go out. So you have to get it, move it along to a certain point, and then people can react to it, and then we can get more revisions. But that gives you a snapshot the next 6 months, I think, of zoning. Okay, any questions?
Really appreciate that update. Thanks.
Welcome.
Okay.
Okay, no,
Okay. What? Well, I don't want to cut you off. I do that enough.
Actually, there's a couple things I want to talk about. I want to thank everybody who came to the June 1st. Dedication is June is Pride Month. I want to thank Casey for introducing me to the people of Matilda Gage House so we could work in partnership with them. It was very well attended and I really appreciate it. It was, I think, one of our better events for Pride Month, and I thought it was really, we had good weather, which was the other thing.
That was
What
a
am I supposed to
miracle.
think? Weather is what this is all about these days. The other thing is I want to thank Tyler and his crew because we kicked off the expanded kitchen compost pilot program. And I received a large number of emails and calls thanking us for doing that and being able to expand the products that we're taking in and things such as that, and moving it to the weekly basis because it makes it more doable for people. And as we know, one of the things we have to do is make sure that our residents are looking for ease of doing things and not trying to create additional burdens on them as they go along also. So we try to do it. And yes, Danny, I hear about the grocery store as much as you do every day. And so it is difficult, and I understand. We just have to work our way through it. The other thing is I attended emergency management training for elected officials. And just one of the ongoing things that I've been doing with that kind of area, because I work on the critical response committee for the town. And it's been, for me, it's very eye-opening in a lot of ways. Because it's very hard for most people to understand what is actually working in the background and help protect people. And our emergency management at the county level and what we do locally is really phenomenal as far as it is change, and this will continue to change and move forward. So I want to thank our chief for being in that a lot too, because this does not go away or stop. And it's a real drumbeat that we have to understand, we have to do, because so much is out there right now. And we've experienced so much and we're trying to respond to that so that we're prepared, because the old routine is we work very hard to be prepared so that we don't have to go through the problems. So anyway, I'll leave it right there. I'll keep it very short.
Stacy?
So Andrew Ullman, who we met over screen back in the fall, I think it was, he will be giving a presentation this coming Wednesday. Lori, I have this written down for you. This coming Wednesday at the town of Manlius board meeting, because they included that cost in their contract. We were much smaller budget, and we did not. So Andrew, though, will be talking a little bit about the tree management plan for the village at that meeting. I don't know about how much time. I tried to find out when in the agenda this item would be, and I don't know. But the meeting starts at 6:30. So it was generous on the town of Manlius' part to say, yeah, Andrew can use some of our time to talk about that too.
I'm sorry, so he's gonna talk about
He's gonna talk about the town.
Yeah.
And the village.
Oh,
Because they were done at the same time. There's a lot of similarity in findings, similarity in management plan. I don't know how much he's gonna talk about us, but I said any amount of time talking about us is good.
Just gonna do a presentation from the town board then?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, in person, which will give it a
I'll be
little
there.
time to ask the questions. Yeah, yeah. Andrew's wonderful to work with and, really knowledgeable. Anybody have any other questions about that? Okay. So one of the things I learned at the recent police open house was about a program that I did not know about. sometimes when we go away, we turn that corner onto our street and we're like, is the house okay? I don't know if anybody else is like that, but if you look on the town of Manlius's website, you can make a house check request. I think it's good for us to maybe like, this is something that we can also publicize through the police department's page, or through How Do I? And they only process these Monday to Friday, so you have, if you're going away, you need to get it in earlier. But they, all the things that we wondered about, contact person with keys and, guns and whatever else that they may come up is part of that process. So if you're going away this summer, there's a way to have the police pay a little bit extra attention to your home while you're gone. Just a really quick supplement to Jane, the memory garden, Jane was there, and Jane's offspring who have been worked on the memory garden for a long time. We're at the May 29th cleanup, and boy, does it look 1,000% better. Jane had a good suggestion about the bricks, which I think could be
Yeah.
really helpful.
Yeah.
And the next gardening date is Saturday, June 21st from 9 to noon. I spoke very briefly with Mario Colon from the Syracuse Metropolitan Transportation Council, and they had just finished up some of their projects. They have 10 new projects, which is a lot for them. There are 12 staff persons. They do almost all the work in-house and do not have extra consultants. Hopefully, and we're not gonna hold them to this, maybe we'll start to work with someone in July. And then brief email from on the lead canal proposal, Pat Heaton from EDR hopes to have something by the end of the week. He was away, or early next week. And then I think that's it.
Okay.
And I have it all written, Lauren.
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention the senior center and their water issue. So Tyler, I'm looking at you because I think you understand it way better than I do. Can you just give everybody a quick update?
Kind of waiting on the valves for that emergency police trap. I actually asked DVR, the company who's putting them in, to look for a more commercial valve than we've been putting in. We did take them apart. We didn't find any scale or buildup in the valves themselves. We actually think it might be more of an electrical issue. It's turning the solenoids to close the valves on. So we're gonna look into that. Right now, they have running water. We made it work for now, but hopefully in the coming week, we'll be able to take care of it.
Yeah.
Replace the valves.
Yeah, and our long-term goal, working with DVR is to set this up so this is not an every 2-year thing. We want to make it, and we want to find a solution that works for a long term. So we'll keep looking for that.
Lori or Ted, do you have? Okay, so at the beginning of the meeting, Casey asked to talk about the Memorial Day Parade and the candy distribution. So we had a contact from a person who participated in the Memorial Day Parade who did not see or like the idea that candy was being thrown to people and stuff. So I don't know exactly where you want to go with the conversation, but I don't know, it's something we have to decide right now because it'll be a year from now, but we probably should not put it on the back burner as far as having a discussion or thoughts about it. So traditionally, when we've had Memorial Day parades, different groups or organizations, sometimes the elected officials have thrown candy to the people that are along the sides of the street. A particular person that wrote the letter felt that that was disrespectful to the people that we were honoring as far as Memorial Day is concerned. I guess you can look at it from that side. I look at it from the side that you are celebrating the fact of what they did for our country and what they provided to us currently in our lives and our lifestyles and things like that. So I guess you can view it two different ways. Sometime between now and next Memorial Day, we'll have to address whether we allow candy to be thrown or not. You can, like I say, it can be looked at a couple of different ways. Perhaps we designate who can and can't. Maybe maybe it's not just all one or all the other. Maybe there is a combination of how that might work. I don't know if anybody here has any thoughts on it currently. You're welcome to
Yeah.
speak to it.
In addition to sending the board a letter, there was also a letter to the editor and the Eagle Bulletin, which was shorter, but in summary, Mrs. Dershang is a mom, she's a teacher, and she's a Girl Scout leader. And the leaders of that Girl Scout troop had worked with the girls to really understand the solemnness of Memorial Day Parade. And I actually noticed them, when I was standing at the end, I was like, did something happen? They look really somber. I think that was Mrs. Dursang's daughter. I contacted a few other municipalities to see, how other people handle this. Camilla's got a lot of press, has a huge campaign. They allow candy to be distributed, but each piece must be placed in the hand of a child. The Village of Manlius allowed candy to be distributed. Village of Liverpool, candy can't be thrown because in one parade in another state, a child ran out to get the candy. Village of Manlius, Hank Chapman Conversation Memorial Day, to require that pieces of candy be placed into the hands of each child. Mrs. Chapman had to pull a child away too close to the tires of a vehicle last year. And the Village of Baldwinsville had the most dramatic approach, and they have not permitted any candy distribution for several years. Their local American Legion and Veterans of Foreign Affairs are adamant about it. They allow distribution of flags or flowers. I favor the approach of the Village of Baldwinsville, and I do think that it's best not to wait till later in the year, because my personal experience of walking in the parade was informed by family. And I think back to your talk at Veterans Day. When I was a kid, I dusted three things on my parents' dresser: Sacred Heart of Jesus, John F. Kennedy, and William Billy Cleary. He was shot down in World War II. 21 years old, 4 months in as a bombardier. He and all other 9 members of that plane were never found, despite my family spending a lot of money trying to find them in Yugoslavia. No trace of the plane was found either. He received many medals. Street is named after him. But the impact that had on a family for generations is something that I experienced and many other families experience. And I thought about him every step the last 2 Memorial Day parades, so I gotta stop. I don't think this is that kind of a celebration of our victories. I think this is about memorial. So that's all I'm gonna say for now, because I'm too worked up.
That's fine. We can have further discussion about it later on. We don't have to decide it today, as I mentioned, but there are different ways to look at it, different approaches to think about with that. We could not have bands. We could just have a very somber people walking down the street, or we can do what we've traditionally done. So I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other at this point. I'm going to have further discussion about it, but I want to, in essence of time, I will put it on another agenda at some point soon so that we can make those decisions.
We're gonna change it. We're gonna make it somber. Let's make it somber.
Well, let's have time to think about it with this, you know, and then we can come back and discuss it. Flower pot distribution.
Just before you move on,
Yeah.
there's a lot of controversy on that celebration. So I don't know how deep we all want to go on this, but
Right.
that's all
Well,
I
and
have
there's
to say
been,
for now.
there's also been traditions of what's gone on here, just like there are in other communities and stuff, so.
Yeah, I agree here because I mean, I can talk about this and don't really want to at the moment. This is.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think
issues
it's
we
a-
should discuss, we need to discuss it properly.
I think we need to think about it and come up with some ideas, not just off the cuff. Like
Right.
me, I didn't think about it till I read the letter, obviously saw it, things like that. But I didn't really give it much thought, so I'd like to give it a little more thought before we have a discussion on it. That's all. That it's an important discussion to have. Flower pot distribution.
Yeah, so we reduced our flower pots from 67 to 34 or 35, I'm not really sure. And when we talked about it, I thought that they were gonna be spread out more than they are. So I drove around to see where they are and broke up the map into like 5 sections and, you know, when we're talking about North Manlius Street, we have nothing, not even at the Village Gateway sign. Route 5 past the firehouse going east has 2, Salt Springs, I think is just 0. And so the majority of them are concentrated on South Manlius Street, which is 11. And North Burdick, East Genesee to the firehouse was just 21. So 30, you know, that's 32 of I may have this wrong, this is me driving around, but it's like, oh, I would like us to look at redistributing some of those.
Well, we had our discussion at budget time and people didn't want to spend the money on flower pots. That's fine, but we did talk about not having them on High Bridge Street. We talked about not extending them out Genesee Street because the one at the entrance to Brookside, which I've had some Brookside residents talk to me about why there isn't one there this year, was destroyed twice by people. So the only other areas would be way out by Signal Hill and Briarbrook. We didn't go down North Manley Street because we had one at the driveway going out the back here that didn't do well over time. And then we had like maybe two going down North Manley Street, one at Foles House and maybe one at Townhouse Circle or Barker Lane, a little further down, something like that. So if we're not going to have the number of flower pots, the discussion we had was to concentrate them on Genesee Street particularly and South Manley Street where most traffic would be seen. And we have the park, Beard Park, there's several there, and there's several other places. You know, if we want to go back to more pots next year, we can do that, but I don't, and we can certainly discuss it. I'm not in favor of discussing it, but when it was originally proposed, Dan was here and myself was here by Karen Harris. And when we started this program, the idea was, and her comments were, they need to be concentrated. And that's basically what we've done with what we have available to us. So if you have suggestions as to where you think you want them, let me know and then we can discuss it further. But that was the intent originally of why we did this. And, you know, why there's so many at Veterans Park over there, for example, was the concentration of the visibility of them and seeing them. And that when we cut out the pots, we cut out some of the places where there weren't so many or they were more insignificant to that concentration. That's how the decision was made about them this year. But if you have ideas, let me know and we can talk about it. I'm not opposed to not talking about it. I'm just trying to say why we did what we did right now.
Great, because we have, you know, this is a new situation and I think it's worth discussing. Have a little bit different viewpoint. Our pots on East Genesee Street, right across from Warren or Walnut, will also damaged. So I'd like to think about reflecting the whole village to some extent, some kind of little bit more equal distribution of the flower pots so they're enjoyed by others as well.
Okay, thank you.
I'll have that.
Say, have you looked in other villages and seen how they've spread them out? I mean, I like the concentration in the main business area. So Casey, have you looked in other villages and towns to see how there? Cause I like.
Absolutely not have ever done that. This is the village that I
If you spread them out so they're a quarter mile or half mile apart, I don't think you appreciate them as if they're concentrated. That's just my opinion.
Thanks, Mary.
Okay. All right, I just have a couple more things, which will go quick. So one, in my visits to witness and see what's going on in the dog park, I've been able to talk to a lot of the bike people that utilize those trails and that activity that we have up there for that. And so I've gotten very good positive remarks from those people, some different groups that come there and utilize it and thanked us for providing that space and that area for them. So I just want to pass that on to the board, and especially with the renovations that are going on with that trail currently and stuff in our discussions most recently about that. Over the weekend, yesterday, I was able to go down to the town center where the School of Rock had their grand opening and caught the end of a Rochester type of band through the School of Rock. This School of Rock down here doesn't have a band formed just yet, but they will be auditioning people for that. I think it's like youth that they're doing this for. Although any age group can take lessons there and participate, their band will be youth. And I asked them, inquired about them coming to the village to perform once they have their band in place and stuff. And they said they would like to do that. They've been to the jazz or the Taste of Syracuse. They're moving to kind of participate in community types of events. We didn't discuss if there would be charges for that, but we'll look into that. Hopefully they will be not as expensive as some, but or maybe it's something that we can do to help them out one way or the other with that. But that's just something that we can look at. Probably not for this season, but definitely for next season. So between now and fall, I'll be continuing my discussions with them so that we can see what we can do. As far as the party in the plaza in August, currently, we don't have a band signed up for that particular night. I was contacted by Ronnie Lee in regards to the jazz to see if we were doing the jazz. That was again a discussion we had at budget time, whether we would do the jazz or not. What's your opinion if we get Ronnie Lee to put some people together to play there instead of at Beard Park and continue the party
we-
that way?
Do we not have a band because we
Just didn't hire a band. yet.
We just haven't, we don't know who to reach out to, or we haven't, I mean, I got some
I
names.
fell through what I thought was in place and I just haven't actively put it.
Yeah.
I
figure out.
I did reach out to a couple that are not
So-
available. But I also recognize that things might wanna change, so I haven't been any more
Yeah.
proactive
Yeah,
about it.
that's fine. I was just at the Taste of Syracuse and there was a band on one of the side, you know, not on the main stage, on the side stages. They were really, really good. And they were small. I thought they might be able to fit something like this real well, but I don't know how popular they are. They're called the Rip Chords. They're not rock and roll.
Actually, they're fairly popular for certain groups.
Yeah, they're more bluesy.
I know.
There you go.
So I don't know if,
Yeah,
but that's all. Just-
Anybody welcome to like solicit for
Yeah,
entertainment for.
So we
these
did
events.
budget
I'll-
for the jazz
okay.
and the party in the plaza. That's in our budget currently. We can do two separate things, but I just have to get back to Ronnie Lee about what we're doing and how we're doing it. So it was just an idea that I bounced it kind of up. Karen, and she bounced it off me a little bit. Would we make a move? I mean, the jazz does draw a lot of people.
One of our problems
Would
that we have overall is that Ronnie Lee's show has actually been decreasing attendance over the last few
It's
years.
because of Ronnie Lee, right?
Yeah,
I mean, younger, bluesier, jazzier. groups.
yeah,
And
and
do
I
we-
happen to like Ronnie Lee.
And
It's
do
a
we-
different game, you know?
And the other decision is we don't have to utilize Ronnie Lee if we find a different band that you want to come for August and
Yeah.
forego something there, or Ronnie Lee is $6,000, I think it was, that we put in the budget for him. So we could
There's some
certainly,
more overhead to working. with him.
right, because we rent a stage and we do get the trailer or the camper thing, but that's free as a promotional type of thing. If we decide not to do the jazz itself, we could certainly find a blues jazz band to play at the park at some point and or the party in the plaza. I mean,
Kind of marry the two.
or kind of marry the
Get
two with
something
that.
already
I'm trying to get like ideas of what you're thinking maybe that you are
I like
thinking.
having music, so I'm in favor of both and spending, I'd be happy to work with you and searching for local talent, you know, to come. So
Yeah,
I think that your question is, do we want to combine the two into just one event?
Or,
Okay.
and so there's two questions, I guess, to answer. One is, do we continue with the jazz concert with Ronnie Lee or someone? Do we eliminate that aspect of things this year and go to a concert of whatever type we figure out at Berry Park? And not call it the Jazz Fest concert and one at the party in the plaza, or do we just say, what you're thinking? From what I'm hearing, you're thinking two would be nice. But not necessarily Ronnie Lee and the Jets, maybe
Right.
two
When-
different types. of
Right.
events.
When is our jazz concert in the park usually?
Typically, it's soon after like the middle of July, be right after the symphony.
Usually like second and third week of July.
When it first started, there was as many people at that as there was at this.
Yeah,
Sunday.
yeah.
And it was promoted by two people, along with the Friends of the Fayetteville Library. Is who promoted it initially, and everything was paid for.
And was it Ronnie Lee?
It was always Ronnie
Ronnie
Lee.
Lee.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was
It
paid.
was always paid for by the Friends of the Library until the library got a new
And the
director and the Friends of the Library disbanded. And then these individuals, this couple paid for it for several years after that on their own. And then obviously, as they aged and eventually now they've passed, they don't do that anymore. So
So I have a thought here. We have a pretty outstanding local high school band. And there's some other local bands of student ages, you know, between SU and our high schools and other high schools. it's late in the game though, to try to now collect people and get things together for July performance anyway. That's not gonna happen. But for the future, we could use that park time because of the size of the park. And really try to
What's
lean
the
in
date?
on some of our more youthful local musicians.
No, the festival.
We don't have a date.
Huh?
Lots
Oh,
of different
Fab
times too.
Festival.
There are, but if we wanted to stay with the jazz theme, I got it.
Jazz Fest.
The third Saturday, the 20th.
Third-
I'm sorry, but she was talking about something.
It's the
So I
third
was trying
Saturday.
not to talk.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine. All right, so these are some options. If we can find a band for August at the party in the.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
We're not gonna, if we don't do something in July outside of this, we already have the symphony, the 5th, and we have the party in the plaza. We have the party in the plaza in August. We have the festival, which is September 30th, so 20th.
Yeah.
So if we plan on something perhaps the week before, like September 13th, and see if we could reach out to either one of those schools that you just mentioned, or somebody I know it's right at the beginning of their school year, or someone else to come in and do something. I mean, then it would just kind of space stuff out a little bit, maybe. Or
So you're saying
very
not
hard.
have the jazz concert then?
and saying not have the jazz concert in September, in July.
But did you have anything with the school? In September?
It's tough for the
Logistically
schools.
doesn't work because we used to try to engage them into the festival and it
Oh.
didn't work for that.
I think that she's right. You're not gonna get students in September, because if they're college age students, which some of this, what I'm thinking of, they're all that, they've all gone, they've all.
How about
gone
if we tried to do something
We don't have to create.
During our
work here.
budget
If we just don't want the jazz festival.
So that's the one thing we have to decide first. Let's decide that. Casey,
I'm sorry, you asked a question, but that wasn't what I was gonna say.
go ahead and say whatever you want to
Okay.
say then. Well, it's in your mind because it would lose
Yeah.
my mind.
I'm sorry. I talked about this in the budget workshop and I believe that as much as possible, we need to be frugal. And 6 events for one village to put on in the space of 3 months seems like a lot to me, considering all the other things going on around us. And that some of those things don't necessarily have great attendance. So I'm in favor of, especially because it is at the late minute and I'm talking about a newsletter going out really fast, that we go with what we have. And we don't necessarily have to spend money that we've allocated for those things. So that's all I'm gonna say, but
During our budget meeting, we talked about only having 2 parties in the plaza. We decided we're gonna have 3.
Yes.
We also decided we're gonna have a Fayetteville
Yes.
first, but we cut the hours back. Well, so I feel that the parties in the plaza are there for a reason, I guess, and the Fayetteville Festival got cut back. If you decide you're gonna do something else, then extend the Fayetteville Festival to its old hours.
We can do some, well, that can be revisited. It's not up to me. I mean, and I don't know how much of a.
I mean,
bearing
I'm just
that-
thinking about what we talked about. If we want to
The question,
discuss it, at a budget
So
meeting next year.
let's go back to the beginning. What do you feel about the jazz? Yes or no?
It doesn't bother me one way or the other, whether it's there or not.
Okay, does it bother, what does everybody think? I'm looking.
I'm
for an
looking
answer.
at it, I'm looking at a program that's actually declining in popularity. I mean,
Right.
because when I look at something like the Syracuse Orchestra, I just see a very vibrant, we're very proud of, for gosh sakes.
So
It's
similar
really hard.
to a different decision we made, obviously, the flower pots, we cut them in half. We
Yeah.
were gonna see what the reaction was and how it turned out. Do we do the jazz festival also, or jazz concert, and say no for this year and see what
You know,
reaction we get and
yeah,
then
yeah,
come back?
Do that.
I'm-
Let's-
Is everybody okay with something like?
Yeah,
that?
but
Just,
I'm gonna side with Danny and say, if we're gonna do that, let's bring the.
some more
fest-
music and festival stuff together.
Right, no,
Or-
sorry, the Fayetteville Festival.
Right,
And maybe we can take some of our energy and get some different kind of musics for that. I don't know.
we would have more budget money than to use. We
Right.
don't have to use all of the money. At
Right,
the
no,
Fayetteville
no, the
Festival,
goal
but
is-
we could, we're not looking to spend every dime we have,
No.
but we could. put some of that money towards, if we lengthen the hours, some different entertainers there. Okay, so is everybody comfortable with that?
I'm good.
Okay,
Yeah, so no
Alright.
jazz festival,
I just have to get back to the memo because I had to do that on. Okay,
but we are still looking for a performer for the party in the plaza number 3.
yeah,
Okay,
so if you know somebody or ask somebody.
Yeah,
Like
I'll-
Karen know or whatever.
I'll do
or
my little-
whatever. Okay. So our next meeting is in 2 weeks at 6 o'clock at night.
I know.
Mike, did you have anything? I didn't even ask you, sorry. but-
I got-
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's the meeting.
Meeting to adjourn, or motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Oh, sorry, Mary.
Sorry, Mary.
Sorry.
What's going on with the mural? I thought you were gonna talk about it or have somebody talk about it again.
Yes, I'd be happy to answer that. I met with Brandon Lazar at the site. And we discussed some of the ideas. Mike wants to talk to him. I don't know if you had. So
I haven't.
ideas being percolated. So if you have thoughts that you would like to
My
talk about.
thoughts is. A mural doesn't have to take up a whole wall and be huge. That does not have to be. I also. I don't know, I like the way the barn looks now. I mean, have you decided it has to be the barn? I mean, I like that, the way it is. Could it be something inside the cottage instead?
No, it needs to be out in public.
Has to be. Well, I like the way the barn is now. That's my opinion. And if you choose another spot, my other opinion is it doesn't have to be as big as these other two are. I'm not really a big fan of murals anyways, so. So that I just wanted to put my opinion out there on the barn and I don't know what the picture looks like.
We haven't decided.
I don't know,
that
I
It's not
think
bad.
that's
yeah.
the Indian theme. I think that's great, but I don't know why some of these themes aren't just out there for the village people to also put it. It seems like it's always the board that's making the decision on what the final product is and not letting the residents have an opinion on it too. So that's my thoughts. Thank you.
All right, when we have something to share, we'll share it with you and you can give us your opinion. All right, motion to adjourn.
Second.